Sweet in the morning, oh Lord, it's sweet in the morning. Sweet in the morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is an interview with Mrs. Pinkie Shortridge. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. Today is Friday, February 10th, 1995, and we're at Miles College. And I want to just say again, good morning to you and welcome. And I'm glad you take time out of your busy schedule to come out and talk with us. You know, obviously, what we're doing, we're attempting to develop profiles of individuals who have been instrumental in the development of Birmingham, and particularly in the development of the civil rights movement. And I know that you and your husband were very much involved in that. So again, I want to say thank you for coming out and sitting with us this morning.
Glad to be here.
Okay, first what I'd like to do is just to get a little background. Tell me a little something about your parents. Where were they from?
My mother was born in Livingston, Alabama. My father was born in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. So your mother, your father, was he a farmer?
Yes, he was a farmer.
Okay, so he had his own farm. Were you born? Where were you born?
I was born in Kiwana, Mississippi.
Kiwana, Mississippi. And how old were you when you came to Birmingham?
10 years old.
10 years old. So do you remember much about Kiwana, Mississippi?
Well, we would go back there about once a year to visit my father.
I see. So you, in visiting back in Kiwana, you really never left then. You just, you went back periodically, so you still had friends and relatives there.
Well, we didn't have too many relatives there.
That's all right.
No.
Okay.
We just would go back to see my father.
I see. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have only one sister.
Is she older or younger than you?
She's younger than I am.
What about your parents' education? How much education did they have?
Well, my mother finished Parker High School after she came to Birmingham. She left Birmingham and went to New York. I had a nephew who got injured, and she stayed there for about 40 years. And she attended, I've forgotten this school there, college there. And she got a degree in nursing, decorating. I guess she got about 20-some-odd degrees.
So your brother's rather active.
Very active.
Yes, well, maybe that's where you got your
I don't know about
activism
that.
So,
and she worked also, doing private duty work.
So she actually lived in New York for over 40 years.
She lived in New York 40 years. She took care of her grandchild for about 25 years.
Okay. What about your schooling?
I finished Parker High School. From there to Booker T. Washington Business College. From there to Jeff State Mortuary Science. From there to Birmingham Southern. I need about 4 more quarters before I can finish Birmingham Southern, if I ever go back.
Oh, yes. So you are a chip off the old block.
I don't know about that. It's something to do.
Yeah. What kinds of work have you done
Like what?
in your life? After you finished Booker T. Washington?
Well, I worked at Booker T. Washington in the insurance department for about 20 years. And after my husband died, I took over the business.
And that business is?
Shortridge Funeral Home.
Funeral home. So you
that was in 1964.
Okay, so you are a funeral director.
Right.
Oh, okay. when you were growing up, what community did you live in?
Well, we lived in Avondale, a place, shotgun houses. Nothing there, was just row houses. We lived there until we moved to Inslee. And we lived on 18th Street. Then we bought, well, the first house on 18th Street from the Pritchett. It's very known here in Birmingham. There's musicians. They moved to New York.
So how would you, let's look at the two communities, the Avondale community. What was the makeup of it?
Well, nothing but a lot of shotgun houses. And in Inslee, there's more, better living conditions.
In Inslee?
In a sense, right.
What kind of occupations do people have in the two communities?
Well, in Inslee, mostly TCI, Tennessee Coal and Iron.
Okay, in the steel mill.
Steel mill, right.
What about in Avondale?
Private duty. Private home, most of it.
Did you have any people that worked in the in steel mills from Avondale, like maybe
I had
Sloss?
I had an uncle who worked in the steel mill that lived in Avondale.
Right.
That was the reason we moved to Inslee, to be near his job.
Okay. Were there men in the community that actually worked at Sloss?
I don't know.
You don't remember that? Yes.
Because I was working at the hospital also myself.
What hospital?
University Hospital. I worked in the Central Supply. Worked there for years.
That's all right. This was before or after?
At night.
While you were working at Booker T. Washington?
No, this is when I was in school. That was before I started working.
I see. What was your community's relationship to the Birmingham Police Department?
Well, at that time, it was just the police department. Bull Connor, and we all knew him. And
why did everybody know Bull Connor?
Well, I guess because his reputation, especially pertaining to black people.
What was the relationship between the police department and the community one where the community looked at the police as being there to protect and serve the community?
Well, I guess, in a sense, yes.
But in another sense?
No.
Okay, can you?
Well, now, when we moved to Inslee, it was altogether different. That's when I met my husband. So he was very active in different organizations and civil rights, and I think his family had a confrontation with the police department way back there.
What kind of confrontation did they have?
Well, one of his sisters had a confrontation at a drugstore there in Inslee. And I believe the whole family got involved.
What actually happened?
I believe they said this guy who ran the drugstore slapped her. So she moved away. And ever since then, my husband been very, very active.
Was that what got him involved as a result of that incident taking place?
I think he was at Howard at the time.
He's tell me about his educational background. Did he finish from Parker?
No. He went to private school. This whole family went to Selma University. And then when he left Selma University, he went to Howard University. He had a sister finished Tuskegee, and had a brother finished Wilberforce. had another sister. I think she finished Alabama State. She was married to Dr. E.J. Oliver. That was her husband.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have any kids, and I don't know how long they stayed together, but they divorced. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dr. E.J. Oliver was a legend to himself.
Fairfield.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, your husband then, was he originally from Birmingham?
Born in Pratt City.
Born in Pratt
I
City.
have the picture of the house where he was born, a 3-room house. Mm-hmm.
So, then his family then was rather well off.
Well, they was really from Montevallo, the Montevallo College. They had a lot of property there. I think they sold some of that property to the school, where the school is built.
I see.
He has quite a few relatives there in Montevallo now.
You became active and involved in the civil rights movement. Why? Why did you become involved?
Well, my husband was active, and I would go with him. He would have to he made all the arrangement for each Monday night for the meeting for the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights.
Tell me a little about his involvement even prior to the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights.
Well, much he was involved in.
Was he involved with the NAACP?
He used to be president of the local branch here, NAACP, the Mason, the American Woodmans, and everything you name, he was in it. Mm-hmm.
So he's just been a very active person.
Mm-hmm. He also was active with the Scottsboro Boys.
Scottsboro case, okay. Are there any specific incidences that you remember that sort of stand out in your mind that took place prior to the development of the Alabama Christian Movement? Was he involved in voting rights?
Oh, yes. I think he set up 2 or 3 places. I mean, he would at that time, it was hard to vote. And he would have classes there at his place, teaching them the fundamental of how to vote. And he was very active.
So he was involved in many phases of what was taking place with the movement.
That's right.
In 1956, when Alabama outlawed the NAACP from operating, what happened then?
Well, they organized the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. Reverend Shuttlesworth called a meeting, and they asked him to come. And he was Reverend Shuttles was president, Reverend Gardner vice president, my husband was treasurer, and they would meet every Monday night at different churches. Not all churches.
Why not? Were there some churches that
Well, they was really afraid, I think. Really afraid. Mm-hmm.
So you attended the mass meetings on
every night
every
to be with him, because he needed somebody to go along with him.
How would you describe a typical meeting of the movement in those early days?
Oh, it was great. It was great. Religious side of it, you would forget about what would happen on the outside. Every night we would have a dynamic speaker, and it was just something it would just go through you. I mean, I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And Reverend Shuttleworth was really the man for the job. Not to be seen, not money-wise. He was a dedicated man. He didn't worry about the money. He didn't worry about doing anything but making it better for everybody in Birmingham. I admire him.
How were those meetings set up? Were they, when you first start the meeting, what would happen?
They had prayer and, and they got so large, the crowd got so large that started having, and they had to have, they started having detectives. Had 2 detectives come out.
Two white detectives?
2 white detectives come out every Monday night. And we didn't worry about nobody bumming the church because the the 2 detectives was there.
Why?
And they enjoyed it also.
Is that right? Why were they there?
I guess to see what was going on, they had to take a report back to City Hall.
So they were basically there to spy on the movement, to keep track of what was going on.
Spy on the movement.
Did you go to jail?
No, I didn't go to jail. We got them out of jail. We was out raising money trying to get them out of jail all time of night. We had over 4,000 of students and different ones in jail. And we were the one had to go to the bonding company, my husband and I, to get these children out of jail and whoever was in jail. But we had to try to get some money too.
Where did you do most of your fundraising?
He would write letters, go to different states, the funeral directors, and raise money. And he would go to different churches, not churches, but different organizations that he belongs to. He would tell them this is necessary. We got to have the money. So it takes money to do anything. So that's his job was to.
Did he assist in finding the attorneys that would help with the legal part of the movement?
Yes, they had, I think Shores had the first case. And I don't know what happened, but something came up. And most of the lawyers here, struck on him. So he had to try to find lawyers from somewhere else. So he got this lawyer from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I believe that's Jacksonville, Florida, to come in to associate with some of the lawyers here to try to get things going again.
Why did those that were here decide not to work with the movement?
I'm not too sure, but I think money was involved. They wanted more money, for a certain amount of money for this and that, and they didn't have it.
There was a need for if you had a lawyer from out of town, then there was a need for a local lawyer to work with that.
You had to get a local lawyer to participate, be the leading lawyer.
Was that difficult to find someone here to assist?
I think we finally got Attorney Demetrius Newton. I'm not too sure now, but I think he joined in with the lawyer from Florida.
Were there ever any attempts to stop you and your husband from being involved with the movement?
Well, we would get so many calls. My husband been acted so long. He had gotten accustomed to being harassed, and we had to park our car so many inches from the sidewalk. We get a ticket. Just so many things happened. Really didn't bother him, and he finally got a permit. They gave him a permit, but after things got so rough.
What kind of permit?
Pistol permit, because he would be out all time of night.
Or were there threats on his life?
Well, so many times. So they would call him the brains of the movement. So they would call there and say, I noticed we got letters now. We wrote to the FBI and things like that. But we never heard no more from him.
Were you ever attacked, either you or he?
Never. Never attacked.
Do you think that's because of him having, carrying his pistol with
I
him?
think so. But they finally lifted his permit.
They
They
did.
said at the movement one night, they said his coat was up and they got a glance of his pistol. The next day they sent out and took his permit. And 2 days or the day after, that's when they tried to assassinate him.
What happened? How did they attempt to assassinate him?
Well, he had planned to go to a meeting that night. And we asked him not to go. We had gotten so many calls that night. So he said, well, let me go out and lock the car up. And I said, you want to ride? I said, no, the baby not feeling too well. So I stayed home, so he decided to stay home too. So when he went out to lock the car up, started back in the house, he said this car passed down 19th Street real slow. Turned around and came back up and started shooting. And he had gotten back up on the porch, and the wall like this was brick, high like this. And they shot about 3 or 4 times, and he fell below that brick wall. And the front door was a French door, with the glass in it. And I was sitting right there in front of that door with the baby in my lap talking on the telephone. And we heard the shots. And when the first shot knocked the telephone out of my hand, the baby fell to the floor, and I fell to the floor. Another shot hit the mirror, a big mirror just like that, over the chair I was sitting in. It didn't break the mirror, didn't hit my child, didn't hit me, and did not hit him. So there's a God somewhere.
But it knocked the phone out of
Knocked the phone out of my hand on the floor, and I started hollering for the other part of the family to come up. And nobody get a scratch on them.
Was this the only time that you were attacked physically?
We called the police department. They came out and checked, and we'd get back with you. We didn't hear no more from him.
You never heard anything else from him?
So he filed a report with the FBI, and we haven't heard no more from them.
So, were there any indications that he was going to be attacked that night? Were there any calls
Well,
made earlier?
we would get so many calls.
So they became rather routine.
Yeah, we didn't think too much about it.
Well,
But we had guards too.
yeah. Tell me a little about the guards.
Well, we had, after the attack, we started having the movement. The men from the movement volunteered and would take shift to come out and sit around the clock. We built a little porch on the front porch for the guards to stay in. So they stayed in that room at night to try to protect us.
Well, were they armed?
Yeah, they was armed all right.
And they were there all night?
All night.
Every
Some would come on at around 8 and stay to around 11. Others would come, around 11 and stay until that morning.
You lived on Bush Hills?
No, we lived on 19th Street,
On 19th Street at the time?
the home house.
Oh, okay. Your home was never bombed then?
Never bummed.
Okay. What about other people whose homes were bombed did they have the same kind of protection that you had?
Reverend Shuttlesworth?
Reverend
Oh,
Shuttlesworth?
yeah, sure.
And people that lived on
Right.
them
Because a lot
Dynamite
of
Hill.
the guys who worked for my husband, they would help guard Reverend Shuttlesworth.
So then there was a need, a real need, although this was a nonviolent movement, there was a need for
Well, they say he wasn't nonviolent. He was violent, my husband.
Your husband was?
Yeah. Well, that's what they used to say about him.
Well, he must have been a man then that, since he really he didn't participate in the marches themselves.
No. Reverend Shuttlesworth had him to stand by. When he got into things, that's who they would call. He would be the one to see about the money and see about those who are in jail, see about lawyers, who try to get whoever's in jail, try to get them out of jail.
So he was one of those that needed to be free in order to do his work.
Right.
That was necessary for the movement.
He was, Dr. King used to call him the connection man.
Why did he call him the connections man?
Because all he had to do was just call him. He could connect you with anybody.
Okay. How well did you know Dr. King?
Very well.
When did you first meet him?
I met him, we used to go to Montgomery and all the different meetings where he would be speaking. And see, Dr. King was an alpha. My husband was a diehard alpha.
Alpha man.
Oh, Lord. He loved it.
So he and King then were rather close.
Yeah, he had a lot of the judges and things that he went to school with at Harvard University, where they was all involved in the movement. And so he had Dr. King speak to the National Film Directors Association and just got them involved. And they would give nice sums of money to the movement.
What was your husband's role with the National Funeral Directors?
Well, he once was the national president.
Were they active in terms of supporting the movement
Very much
financially?
so. They had to.
How do you mean they had to?
Well, he was a guy that he believed in freedom. He tried to instill in them, you got to pay for it. And they believed in him. So they was very supportive of whatever he asked them to do. They would try to do it.
When you got married, you married Mr. Shortridge
In 58.
in 1958. What was the attraction?
Hey, I don't know, I was about 34 years old 33 years old when I got married. And I was working at Booker T. Washington and had a lot of friends, had gotten married and they was having problems. And I always wanted a guy who was a man, you know what I mean, who intelligent, nice to his family, who knew how to get things done in a sense, and concerned about people. Well, they really call him a missionary because he devoted all his time in trying to help the less fortunate people, the boys and the girls, money-wise, in school, and all those kind of things. He's been doing it all his life. And we said he should have been seen after his business, and that's what his somebody told him, say he should be there trying to see after your business instead of running around seeing after everybody else. So, but that's what he liked as a missionary. He went to see, I think President Kennedy. They had the I don't know if it's the movement, some organization. They all went up and had a conference with Bobby. I don't know if this time the girls was born at 16th Street Church, but they had a delegation to go there. They had asked for them to come up.
Right.
He was one
He
of
was
those.
part of that delegation.
Part of that delegation. No, when the school, Arthur and Lucy.
Oh, okay. Was he involved in that?
Oh, Lord, yes.
What did he
Anything went on. But she used to visit us a lot, Arthur and Lucy.
do? Right. So your husband then, he was several years your elder.
Very much so. But he was a gentleman. Age didn't mean anything. He was the type of person I was looking for.
And I guess there were probably others that were sort of looking for him as well. How did you happen to?
Well, I was a little quiet girl, working hard, and I guess he
saw something in you as well.
I guess so.
Yeah, right. Well, good. Your children, you had, how many children you had?
I got one daughter.
Your daughter, she was really too young to be involved.
She's about 3 years old when all this happened here in Birmingham.
How did other family members react to your participation in the movement?
Well, I tell you what, he was really police brutality. He really, they didn't care for my husband too much. So he was on that police brutality long before, you know, up on Sherman Heights and different one with letters that they're in the file now where he would write letters to different one about police brutality and this and that. And he just been a part of it for a long time.
So he precedes then Richard Arrington.
Oh, yeah.
Arrington
He's a Jew.
started to take on that idea of
That's
police
when
brutality.
he really, that's why I admire Dr. Arrington. He said one thing when he got on the council, he worked on that police brutality.
Did he consult with your husband?
No, I think, let's see, 64. My husband was dead when he really got active. So, but he said one thing if he didn't accomplish nothing else, but stop these policemen from beating up these Negroes. And after he got in office and got on that council, it was kind of rough at first, but he stuck with it. And they gradually started listening to what he was saying. So the Birmingham, what is the Birmingham Police, this organization they got?
The Fraternal Order of Police.
Oh, they was rough. They was real rough. But when Arrington hired, what's his police chief name?
Johnny Johnson?
No, the one before him.
Dodge.
Yeah, Dodge. I love him. He had a rough way to go. And he stuck with Arrington. And he stopped. You name me, I bet you can't name over 3 policemen. I mean, 3 person been beat up by a policeman after he got in office. I mean, after.
So you're saying that he worked closely with Arrington to see that the police force.
He worked with him. He had a rough way to go, and I admire him. He's one, he might, everybody got whatever, but he is one. And any time that the Birmingham police, fraternal police, don't like you, you doing a job. You doing a good job.
If the Fraternal Order of Police doesn't like you?
I didn't like,
Dodge?
No,
Arrington?
They didn't care for him too much. They didn't care for him too much.
Well, because he was not supportive of wrongdoings? Is that what
Yes, because he didn't allow no beating up the black men
So,
time he was in there.
so then the police, Birmingham police, then had a reputation for.
Oh yeah, they had a reputation killing and beating them up. When Ayrton got on that city council, that was one project he really worked on. I admire him.
You know, one of the first issues raised by the movement was that of there being no black police.
That's right. And that's when they started looking at black policemen when the movement got started.
Do you know of any of the things that were taking place? I know you know of them, but the things that were taking place during the first days of the movement when we were trying to integrate the buses. Are there any incidences that you remember during that time?
I'm trying to see. There's so many things happened. My husband, they would call him if they got in jail. He'd be the one have to go bond them out. Sheriffs didn't worry about no money, because he know sheriffs barred or do something. You know, get them out of jail or whatever need to be done.
He always led that portion of the movement. Anytime that there were those who were jailed.
Right, my husband. Shut up. He didn't work. Only thing he was concerned about is making it better for everybody. He didn't care nothing about no money. Shut up, boy. He was a leader. He was a preacher. You couldn't push him to the side.
How would you?
He paid all. My husband paid all the bills. He would give the movement every month what was spent, receipts, everything. They had a CPA to come and do the book once a year.
What about the relationship between SCLC and the Alabama Christian Movement during the times that in the 63 when they were raising money?
Well, at that time, I think my husband seemed. I think he thought that we wouldn't, if the SCLC came in, they wouldn't have the money to help get the people out of jail. But they soon got that. That wasn't no problem. But Dr. King was the same as Shirley was.
So
they didn't worry about no money. They let good Lord take care of it. He did.
Did you ever go out with your husband to raise funds? I know he went out.
You mean at churches?
At churches and away to different cities.
Yeah, right.
Where were some of the places?
New York, anywhere the funeral directors would meet. They would have a spring meeting and the meeting in the summer. And that was when they would, he would write letters, let them know, and he would have it on the agenda, on the funeral director's agenda, a night for the civil rights movement.
So that was an integral part of anything that he was doing. The movement would be related.
The Alpha fraternity, National, he would go to all his meetings. National, everything that he belongs to everything you can name.
Did any of your friends or relatives ever question why you were so active in the movement?
Because they enjoyed it too. When they got a chance to go. Well, they had a sister, and his mother was ill. She had to stay there with the mother at night. And but sometimes we would take care.
So the movement then sort of was what you were doing in relationship to your business, but the movement seemed to have taken up quite a bit of your time.
Well, we would go every Monday night, and we would go everywhere, trying to raise money, writing letters to different organizations, different clubs.
What would you, if I asked you the question, what did the movement do for the community? What would be your reply? Was it a positive influence?
Positive influence, like going to vote, think about the election, read about the election. They tried to educate the people about you can move anybody if you get up and go vote. If you don't know how, they would have a workshop, several workshops, and trying to teach people how to go vote and how to stand up and be in pride of your race, regardless of what color, you are somebody. And that's what Shirley was taught. And this is what Dr. King taught. I am somebody. Mm-hmm.
Were there ever any relationships with progressive whites during the time?
Well, they had quite a few whites. Mm-hmm.
What kind of associations did they have? Did any whites ever come to your house, for instance, and have meetings with your husband? And
No, they would meet at the office if they would. They never did come to the house.
But there were associations with...
I think so now. I'm not too sure. But I'm sure it is. It were.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we have not covered that would be of interest to people who are interested in the movement?
The time the children, when they integrate the school, let's see. Well, my husband furnished transportation and the drivers for to take the kids to West End High School, and that wasn't an easy job to do. Two of the guys who worked at the funeral home would be the chauffeur. Before they get a block to the school, eggs and everything else would be thrown after them. And
so these were men that actually were paid by your husband.
Paid by him out of his pocket
to chauffeur the kids back and forth to school.
Mm-hmm.
And this is at West End High School when it was first
West End
integrated.
High School in the school.
Mm-hmm. And the other schools as well?
Yes, if they needed a ride, but he would see to them at West End. And the Insula High too, I believe. If they needed a ride, because most of them needed a ride, because he was afraid for them to try to walk or anything like that.
Well, I know that you are planning to donate to the Institute your papers from your husband, at some point. And we're really excited about that because we know that there are a lot of things in there, and we eventually want to see something that can be used for public consumption, some kind of publication. We hopefully will come out of that material.
Well, we kept. He had a scrapbook, all the clippings and all that they would have in the Birmingham News. He kept that scrapbook with all those clippings and things for those who came along behind him to see. It wasn't easy. It was just putting your life on the line.
Okay, Mr. Shortridge, I certainly appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're still running your funeral home and you have other kinds of activities. You're still involved in many things.
Oh, yes.
So, again, thank you for taking the time out and coming out and spending that time with us this morning.
Thanks for inviting me.
Sweet in the morning, oh.